Growing up in Seattle, I never thought I'd find romance in the most ordinary of circumstances. Hi, I'm Marcus, 28, a graphic designer working for a mid-sized marketing firm. My life had fallen into a comfortable routine. Wake up, work, hang out with friends, repeat. I lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment downtown, which I decorated with perhaps too many houseplants and art prints. I wasn't actively looking for love. After my last relationship ended badly about a year ago, I'd been content focusing on my career and rebuilding my sense of self. That's when Alex came into my life, or rather, became a more significant part of it. We'd known each other for about 6 months, having met through a mutual friend at a housewarming party. Alex, 30, worked as an architectural engineer, with an eye for detail that manifested in everything from his meticulously styled dark hair to the way he could analyze a building's structure just by looking at it. He had this infectious laugh that seemed to bubble up from somewhere deep and genuine, and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. We developed what I considered a casual friendship, meeting up for coffee occasionally, texting about random things, sometimes joining the same group outings. There was always something about Alex that made me feel simultaneously comfortable and on edge. A lingering glance here, a brush of hands there, moments I couldn't quite interpret, but that left me thinking about him long after we'd parted ways. I'd catch myself wondering if I was reading too much into these interactions, creating meaning where there was none. After all, Alex was just naturally warm with everyone, right? What happened next would challenge everything I thought I understood about our relationship and force me to confront feelings I hadn't fully acknowledged, even to myself. It's funny how something as simple as someone turning on your shower without asking can completely upend your world. Let me tell you the story of how a presumptuous bathroom visit became the catalyst for something I never saw coming. It was a Saturday in early October, one of those perfect Seattle autumn days when the air is crisp but the sun still offers warmth. Alex and I had made plans to catch an independent film festival downtown, followed by dinner at a new restaurant we'd both been wanting to try. Nothing unusual about that. We'd done similar outings before. The plan was for him to come to my place first, then we'd head out together. I spent the morning tidying up my apartment, not because it needed it particularly, but because knowing Alex was coming over made me want everything to look perfect. I changed my outfit 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a blue button-down that a previous date had once said brought out my eyes. I told myself it was just because I wanted to look nice for the restaurant later. Around 2 p.m., there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Alex stood there with his usual easy smile, dressed in a fitted gray Henley and black jeans. But what caught my attention was the small duffel bag slung over his shoulder and what looked like, yes, definitely, a rolled-up towel peeking out from the top. "Hey," I said, unable to keep my eyes from the bag. "Planning on going somewhere after dinner?" Alex stepped inside, setting the bag down by the door. "No, just came prepared. You know me, always thinking ahead." He gave me that smile, the one that always made my stomach do a little flip. The festival might run late, and I thought maybe we could grab drinks after dinner. Brought a change of clothes and towels, just in case. Just in case what? I wondered, but didn't ask. Instead, I offered him something to drink, and we fell into easy conversation about work and friends and the films we were about to see. Everything felt normal, comfortable, until about 20 minutes before we were set to leave. "Mind if I use your bathroom?" Alex asked, already picking up his bag. "Sure, down the hall on the left," I replied, though he already knew where it was from previous visits. I thought nothing of it until I heard not just the bathroom door close, but also the distinctive sound of my shower turning on. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips. Was he? He couldn't be. But the sound was unmistakable, water hitting the shower floor, the slight squeak of the glass door opening and closing. For several moments, I just sat there, trying to process what was happening. Alex was taking a shower. In my apartment. Without asking. Before we were even going anywhere that would warrant needing a shower. And he had brought towels just in case, as if he had planned this all along. My mind raced through possible explanations. Maybe he'd had a particularly sweaty morning? Maybe he'd come straight from the gym? But no, he'd looked perfectly put together when he arrived. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. He'd brought towels. He'd anticipated using my shower. The realization sent a wave of confusion through me, followed by something else I couldn't quite name, a flutter of nervousness, of possibility. I tried to continue scrolling through my phone as if nothing unusual was happening, but my thoughts were a jumbled mess. What did this mean? Was this just Alex being Alex, casual, presumptuous, comfortable in any situation? Or was it something more, a deliberate crossing of boundaries, an intimate gesture disguised as practicality? About 15 minutes later, the water shut off. I heard movements in the bathroom, and then, a few minutes after that, Alex emerged, hair damp and slightly tousled, wearing different clothes than when he'd arrived. A deep green sweater that highlighted the flecks of gold in his hazel eyes. He smelled like my soap, which was somehow both disconcerting and strangely intimate. "Thanks," he said casually, as if what he'd done was completely normal. "Ready to go?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without demanding an explanation. We headed out, and somehow, we made it through the film festival with me only half paying attention to the movies. My mind kept returning to the image of Alex using my shower, the casual presumption of it, the towels he'd brought just in case. During dinner, I finally found my voice. "So, about earlier," I began, trying to sound casual as I twirled pasta around my fork. "You just decided to take a shower at my place." Alex looked up, a flash of something, uncertainty, embarrassment, crossing his face before his usual confidence returned. "Yeah, I hope that was okay. I wanted to freshen up before our night out." He paused, then added, "I've been thinking about this evening for a while. Wanted to make sure it was perfect." "This evening?" I echoed, my heart suddenly beating faster. "You mean the festival and dinner?" He held my gaze a moment longer than necessary. Among other things, the ambiguity of his response hung between us, charged with unspoken possibilities. I didn't know how to respond, so I changed the subject, asking about a project he'd mentioned at work. But the moment had shifted something between us, created a tension that hadn't been there before, or perhaps had always been there, but neither of us had acknowledged. After dinner, we decided to skip the drinks and walk back to my apartment instead. The night air had turned cooler, and our conversation flowed easily about the films we'd seen, though underneath ran a current of anticipation, of questions unasked. Back at my place, I offered Alex a drink more out of habit than anything else. He accepted, and we sat on my couch, closer than we normally would have, the space between us charged with potential energy. "I should probably explain about the shower," Alex said finally, setting his glass down. "I've been wanting to tell you something for a while, and I guess I thought, I don't know, that creating a situation where we'd have to address it might make it easier." My heart pounded in my chest. "Address what?" He turned to face me fully. "Marcus, I've had feelings for you pretty much since we met. I've been trying to figure out if you might feel the same way, but you're hard to read sometimes. I thought maybe if I did something that crossed that line between friendship and something more, we'd finally have to talk about it." I stared at him, processing his words. All those moments I'd wondered about, the lingering touches, the texts late at night, they hadn't been my imagination after all. "So you decided to use my shower without asking? That was your grand romantic gesture." Despite my attempt at seriousness, a smile tugged at my lips. Alex laughed, running a hand through his hair in a gesture I now recognized as nervousness. "When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. I wanted to be in your space in a way that friends usually aren't. And I thought if you reacted badly, I could play it off as me being presumptuous. But if you didn't," he trailed off, his eyes searching mine. "If I didn't," I prompted, my voice softer than I intended, "then maybe it meant you might be open to seeing me as more than a friend." The honesty of his admission hung in the air between us. I took a deep breath, feeling as though I was standing on the edge of something significant. "I've been thinking about you too," I admitted, "in ways that go beyond friendship. But I wasn't sure if I was reading too much into things." Alex's smile was slow and genuine. "You weren't." And just like that, the tension between us transformed into something else entirely. Anticipation, possibility, the beginning of something new. He reached out, his hand finding mine, and the simple touch sent electricity through my veins. "So what now?" I asked, suddenly aware of how close we were sitting, of the warmth of his hand on mine. "Now," Alex said, leaning in slightly, "I think we stop pretending we don't want to see where this goes." The kiss, when it came, felt both surprising and inevitable, like something I'd been waiting for without realizing it. His lips were soft against mine, tentative at first, then more confident as I responded. His hand came up to cup my face, and I found myself leaning into his touch, the world narrowing to just this moment, just us. When we finally pulled apart, I couldn't help but laugh. I still can't believe your big move was to use my shower without asking. Alex grinned, his thumb tracing patterns on my hand. Hey, it worked, didn't it? I guess it did, I conceded. Though next time, you might want to try something more conventional. Like, I don't know, asking me on a date. Where's the fun in that? He teased, but his eyes were serious when he added. But there will be a next time? Instead of answering, I kissed him again, feeling something settle into place inside me, a certainty that had been missing before. When we separated, I said, definitely. Though we should probably talk about boundaries and expectations. Starting with bathroom etiquette. He laughed, the sound warming something in my chest. Fair enough, though I did bring my own towels. Such consideration, I said dryly, but I couldn't keep the smile from my face. We spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, about how we'd felt these past months, the moments we'd each wondered if there was something more between us, the reasons we'd hesitated to say anything. It turned out Alex had been interested from the start, but had held back after learning about my recent breakup. He'd been waiting for signs that I was ready to date again, while I'd been convincing myself that someone like him wouldn't be interested in someone like me. What finally made you decide to make a move? I asked as the night grew late, my head resting on his shoulder, his arm around me in a way that felt both new and somehow familiar. Honestly, last week when we were having coffee, and you were talking about that design project you're passionate about, your whole face lit up, and I just thought, I want to be the reason you look like that sometimes. And I realized if I didn't do something, someone else might come along who would. His honesty disarmed me. So you decided to bring towels to my place and use my shower without asking? I never claimed it was a well-thought-out plan, he admitted with a laugh. But I did think about what would happen after. Best case scenario, we'd end up exactly where we are now. Worst case, you'd think I was weird and presumptuous, and I'd have to find a new coffee shop to avoid the awkwardness. It was definitely presumptuous, I said, nudging him gently. But also kind of endearing, in a strange way. It's very you. I'll take that as a compliment, he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. As the night deepened around us, we talked about everything and nothing. Our childhoods, our dreams, our fears. I learned that Alex had grown up in a small town in Oregon, the middle child of 3 boys, and had known he wanted to be an architect since he was 10 and built elaborate structures out of anything he could find. He told me about coming out to his family at 19, about his first serious relationship in college that had ended when his boyfriend moved abroad for work. I shared stories of my own, growing up as an only child with parents who had divorced when I was 12, discovering my passion for design in high school, my struggle to find my place in Seattle's competitive creative industry. I told him about my last relationship, how it had ended when I realized we wanted different things, and how it had made me cautious about opening up again. I'm glad you're opening up now, Alex said softly, his fingers intertwined with mine. Me too, I admitted. Though I'm still not sure how we go from here. Do we tell our friends? Do we start dating officially? What does this mean for us? Well, Alex said thoughtfully, I think it means whatever we want it to mean. We don't have to figure everything out tonight. But I know I want to take you on a proper date, one where neither of us pretends it's just a friendly hangout. And yes, I'd like to tell our friends when you're ready. But mostly, I just want to spend more time with you, getting to know you better. His words calmed the anxious part of me that wanted everything defined and categorized. That sounds good, I said, one step at a time. It was nearly 2 a.m. when Alex reluctantly said he should probably go home. We stood by my door, neither of us quite ready to end the evening. So, he said, his hands resting lightly on my waist, about those towels I brought. I raised an eyebrow. What about them? Well, they're still here. I could leave them, for next time. Or, I prompted, already knowing where this was going but wanting to hear him say it. Or I could stay, and we could both use your shower in the morning. His eyes held mine, the invitation clear but not presumptuous this time. A question, not an assumption. I pretended to consider it, though my mind was already made up. I suppose that would be the environmentally responsible choice. Saving water and all that. Exactly, he agreed, his smile widening. I'm just thinking about the environment. Such a considerate citizen, I teased, pulling him closer. In that case, How could I possibly say no? And that's how what started as a presumptuous use of my shower turned into something I never expected. The beginning of a relationship that would change everything. In the weeks that followed, Alex and I navigated the transition from friends to something more, learning each other's rhythms and routines, discovering new layers to a person I thought I already knew. Our friends were hardly surprised when we told them, most responding with variations of, "Finally," and "We were wondering when you two would figure it out." Apparently, the chemistry between us had been obvious to everyone but ourselves. As for the shower incident, it became something of an inside joke between us, a story we'd tell with varying levels of detail, depending on who was asking how we got together. He brought towels, just in case, and used my shower without asking. Became our shorthand for the day everything changed. 6 months later, when Alex officially moved in with me, the first thing he unpacked was a set of new towels, one for each of us, plus a spare just in case. As he arranged them in our now shared bathroom, I wrapped my arms around him from behind, resting my chin on his shoulder. "You know," I said, "most people bring flowers or wine when they're trying to woo someone. You brought towels and invited yourself into my shower." He turned in my arms, his eyes crinkling with the smile I'd grown to love. I like to think I was being practical. After all, look how much use we've gotten out of that shower together since then. I couldn't argue with that logic. What had started as a presumptuous act had led to countless intimate moments. Not just physical ones, but the quiet conversations we'd have while one of us brushed our teeth and the other showered. The mornings we'd wash each other's hair just because we could. The times one of us had a bad day and the other would run a bath for both of us. "I love you," I said, the words still new enough to give me butterflies but familiar enough to feel like home. "I love you too," he replied, kissing me softly. Enough to always bring my own towels. And in that moment, standing in our bathroom surrounded by neatly folded towels, I was struck by how the smallest, strangest moments can sometimes be the beginning of the most important journeys. How someone turning on your shower without asking can lead to finding the person you want to share not just your bathroom with, but your whole life. So if there's a moral to this story, maybe it's this: love doesn't always arrive in the ways we expect. Sometimes it comes bearing towels and making itself at home in your shower. And sometimes, if you're lucky, that's exactly the love you need. Total _char_count, 17,988.